Welcome to the Derek Loudermilk Show. This is episode 345 with Jason Shurka. Jason Shurka is an author of multiple books, including The Language of Energy and Forming the Formless. He's the founder of the Academy of Divine Knowledge. And today we're going to be talking with him mostly about his role in the light system, or TLS. Jason has a really interesting backstory, which he'll share, where not too long ago he was just living a normal life until he had a friendship, was contacted by a member of the TLS, which is essentially like a spiritual CIA. It's the good guys. It's the opposite of the deep state or the Illuminati or the global cult or whatever you want to call it. This is an ancient organization of good guys. And I knew I needed to bring Jason on the show when I saw him interviewed on Gaia, and he was talking about TLS and some of the things that he had learned through this organization, which totally added up with many of the other things I've learned about spirituality, about physics and metaphysics, about UFOs and ETs. So today we're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to talk about UFOs and ETs and different races that he knows and can describe about their planets and all kinds of things like that. Amazing. Also, the importance of Earth in the universe. Why so much attention? Why do ETs want to be here? Why is there a battle between good and evil going on? Why is this such an important time? So I don't want to give away too much, so I'll just let you hear it straight from Jason Shurka. Here he is. Jason Shurka, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
And as we were just sort of briefly talking about before the show, your life has sort of shifted and changed about how public you are. You're now on YouTube. You've got books, and you've got the Divine Knowledge Academy. You've got a couple of books, Forming the Formless, The Language of Energy. And would love to just start with sort of how you got into the position where you are. And I'm with digging into some of these turning points in mind to try to understand your own sort of origin story.
Absolutely. So, first of all, thank you for having me. I come from a business background. That's kind of what I've known growing up. I went to college for business, real estate, and specifics. And back in 2018, so just about 3 years ago, in June of 2018, I was approached by a specific individual. By the way, before I even get there, let me start with even more of a background. Although I come from a business background, I've always been interested in the more like metaphysical, spiritual realms of life. It's been something that interested me for a while, but it wasn't necessarily like I wasn't doing any of that for my day-to-day job. It was just like on my free time, I would read, all these books behind me. Most of them are spiritually oriented books that
very neatly organized, but
that I really enjoyed reading and just growing and learning and evolving and so on and so forth, like all of us, or most of us probably do, in whatever realm interests us. So back in 2018, just about 3 years ago, I was approached by an individual on the street, just like a stranger. And that individual sparked up a really fascinating conversation with me. And I thought that person was a stranger, but he was not. Now I know that he knew who I was, and he approached me purposefully for reasons that I'm going to explain. But at the time, just thought it was a stranger having an awesome conversation. We ended up keeping in touch. And what started as a stranger approaching me turned into a really awesome friendship. And we spoke about really vast topics. The pyramids in Egypt, ancient technology, ancient civilizations, extraterrestrial life, like spiritual insights, if you want to call them, from reincarnation to out-of-body experiences and so on and so forth. And over time, without me totally being aware of what was going on, because I just saw it as a naturally evolving relationship, I was more so going through this disclosure process of information, prepping me for something without me understanding that I was being prepared for something. And as time kind of went by, over the past 3 years, specifically over 2.5 year period from when I was approached in June of 2018, That man that approached me, who became my friend, slowly started letting me know a little bit about more of who he truly was. Because I knew him, as I came to know him, as also a businessman. That's what the world knows him as, by the way. He's not a nobody in the world, but he's not like world famous. He's just known in his world. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And I knew him for what everybody else knew him as, and we just had interesting conversations until he slowly started revealing who he really was in terms of what he does day to day, and his job that everybody thinks he has is just a cover, and who he's affiliated with and what they do. So it turns out that he eventually revealed his affiliation with an organization known as TLS, otherwise known as the Light System. You can think of TLS as like a spiritual version of the CIA. They're a physical organization with physical agents all around the world. They have a branch in every major city in the world. They work in terms of their structure. They're built very much like an organization like the CIA. The only thing I would say is, well, they have many differences, but one of their major differences is their intentions. Meaning the intentions of TLS, they're here, and everything that they do is to help guide and assist humanity in reaching a higher level of awareness, a higher level of consciousness, to make this world a so-called better place by uniting humanity instead of dividing humanity like we see in the world today. And they do that in many different ways. They're now approaching roughly 8,000 initiated agents for the first time. Back when I recorded with Gaia, they were at roughly 7,000 agents, and they've been at roughly 7,000 agents for a very, very, very long time. So they're now approaching 8,000 agents, and this is going to be the most they've ever had in the organization at any given time.
I just want to jump in there. You referenced Gaia, and that's where I first encountered you, was on the Cosmic Disclosure show Emery Smith was hosting. And so I don't know how long ago that was you recorded, but that just came out. So it's, as we record, you and I today, it's June.
Yes.
And
that
so
was, I think, in 2020.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah. At the end of 2020. That's when I was in Colorado filming with them. So it took some time to put it out. So I'm just putting everything into perspective for anybody that watches that and then listens here.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So all in all, the organization is made up of some people that everybody in the world knows. It could be world leaders, certain individuals in the government, politics, celebrities, authors, producers. I mean, literally every type of industry that exists, somehow, one way or another, they have some sort of control or person in there doing something, and nobody knows that they're a part of that organization. Now, I'm faced with a question a lot of the times of, well, this sounds a lot like the Illuminati or the Freemasons or something like that. They're the exact opposite. People and organizations like what people would call the Cabal or the Illuminati or whatever they want to call them are here to suppress humanity, are here to divide humanity, and are here to keep certain individuals weak so they can maintain their power. TLS is not only the exact opposite of that in terms of what they do and how they do it, but a lot of their operations that they go through with are to take these organizations and individuals down, which I've shared seven TLS mission updates since August, which is pretty much when they give me a brief on something, I'm able to convey that to the world. I put it in a message over a video, and all of those mission updates are on my website, having to do with operations that they do. In many cases, having to do with operations in the underground tunnel system. I don't know how much of your audience is familiar with the underground tunnel system, but that is absolutely real. There's a lot of things going on there, and TLS has a very big part in putting that all to an end in what they do. So all of that is on my website at jasonshurka.com as well, and you can listen to it for free and share it and do whatever you want with it. So,
well, first of all,
sort of big picture.
Yeah, I mean, first it just sounds really cool, like a secret organization for the good. I mean, that sounds amazing. Why do you get to be the one who's sort of talking publicly? Because it sounds like many of these individuals are not sort of forthcoming with their affiliation, or they got a cover.
So the man who first approached me, the reason why I'm calling him a man and not by his name is because he wants to remain anonymous, because he doesn't want his life to change overnight. That's his freedom of choice. And it's something that I don't necessarily agree with, but I do have to respect. So with that being said, I know that back in 2010, TLS already gave this man, we're going to call him Ray. That's his pseudo name, not his real name, but just so everybody knows what I'm talking about. So TLS gave Ray permission to come out publicly and fill everybody in on what's going on. And he also has incredible material and information that is still in his possession today to reveal and put out to the world. He started, by the way, on a small scale and then immediately retracted it. So there are some people that know what I'm talking about right now, but not many, because he immediately retracted it, stuck to his way of keeping his cover and not kind of taking that big responsibility upon himself. So that was in 2010. Now, I was approached in 2018. In February of 2020, I was invited to a meeting with Ray and a few others. Some of the heads or leaders, if you want to call them, of TLS, of that organization, were at that meeting as well. And it lasted about 12 hours, started at 6 p.m., ended at 6 a.m. And it only ended, I'm giving rough times, by the way. It only ended because something happened, somebody had to go and we had to bring it to an end. But that was a 12-hour meeting that was just unbelievable and mind-blowing with the things that happened throughout those 12 hours. Now, throughout that meeting, one of the leaders instructed Ray to document something known as the Pyramid Code, which is a document that's for free on my website as well. And I'll explain how it got onto my website in the first place. That was back in February of 2020. I get this document. The person that told Ray to write the Pyramid Code and document it also told him that he has to give it to everybody in the meeting after he's done documenting it. So it took him about 4 months to put it together. It's not long. It's only it was originally written in Hebrew. Ray happens to be like his native language is Hebrew, so that's what he knows best. He wrote in Hebrew. It's about 31 pages in Hebrew. It was translated into English, and it's 44 pages in English. And when I was given that document in June, I read it. It's absolutely mind-blowing in terms of the information that's put forth over there, specifically having to do with a certain reincarnation, having to do with certain individuals, myself included, that I do not remember. I'm going to say that up front. I do not remember what is written in that document, but I happen to be a part of that document. And many different things having to do with ancient Egypt, the building of the pyramids, who built them, how they built them, why they built them, and how that mirrors what's going on in our world today. So he gave that to me in June. I read it. It was incredible. And I understood about a week later that this document didn't have to be kept a secret. It could actually be published publicly. So I asked Ray, why aren't you putting out? And the same reasons why he wasn't putting out the past material, because he has his cover, he has his family, he's established in his life for what people think he does. He's working behind the scenes with TLS. He wants to keep it that way, and he doesn't want his life to change. In his words, he said, listen, when I die, they can publish whatever they want, but I don't want to deal with it while I'm alive. So I said, listen, I hear you. I don't agree with you. I think it's a crime against humanity to hold certain information back because it doesn't fit what's comfortable for you, but I do understand where you're coming from, because listen, with that type of information, you get criticized. People call you crazy. You know, his family is the type that would probably put him in a mental institution. You know, it's like, it's things that he didn't want to deal with.
Okay.
So I said, listen, I don't care how we do it. We're getting this out. Okay. So we're going to figure it out. We're going to come down to a compromise. We're getting this document out no matter what. And it took him some time. He came back and he spoke to a few people at TLS as well, some of the top people. And he came back to me and he said, listen, I hear you. I understand you. I don't think this, he says, I don't think this document will make a change in the world. But if you want to put it out so bad, no problem. You're going to publish it. You're going to take my name off of it. You're going to take everybody else's name in there that's associated with me, and we're going to change the name so they can't tie it back to him, so nobody can know his identity. and feel free to put it out in whatever way you want. And that took me off guard completely, caught me off guard completely, because again, I was approached at that point about 2 years ago, at that point.
Yep.
You know, for an organization with such power, with such, I mean, with a magnitude that you can't even comprehend, people that are there for 30, 40, 50 years still can't comprehend the magnitude of what's going on here. And for him to say, listen, you're going to be the one to publish it, it was a massive blow in the best way possible. But I could have said no. I had the freedom of choice. He and they said many times, you have your choice. You don't have to do it, but you have the opportunity to do that if you want to do it. And I mean, in my head, what kind of person would I be if I didn't do the thing that I tried convincing him to do?
Right.
So I said, okay.
What were you considering not doing it? What were you struggling with?
Again, remember, I come from a business background. I come from the norm, not anything out of the norm in terms of my background, my friends, my family. Everybody's normal. I'm saying normal because what the hell is normal? Really?
Right.
Everybody's super normal in terms of like the rest of everybody else in the world on the collective level. So for me to come out with that, it's like, you know, I don't know what's going to happen next. For me to be the first one to reveal an organization that's been around for thousands of years, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that entails. So what I was dealing with was, there was never a thing in my head of saying, I'm not doing it. Because in my head, in my mind, if you're given an opportunity like that to do something good, no matter what the criticism I'm going to get for it, for me, it wasn't an option, even though I knew that I had the freedom of choice to say I don't want to do it, just like he did. That wasn't an option for me in my mind. So I knew that I was going to do it. The question was, how am I going to deal with it? So that's kind of what I was dealing with, but it was I never looked back. I said, I'm going. I had my doubts in myself of, oh my God, am I really doing this? But it was always, yes, yeah. I'm doing it. So on September 9th at 9 a.m., 9/9 at 9 a.m., I was instructed to put that document out. The only thing they gave me was the date and the time. Gave me a date and a time. I put it on my website. And now, mind you, at this point, I'm a nobody. Nobody knows who I am other than my friends in the town that I'm from. I put this document out on jasonshurka.com. Within the first 3 hours, it reached every continent on Earth with the exception of Antarctica, because it's Antarctica, and I think the only people live there other than the secret things going on there are scientists. So every continent in the world with the exception of Antarctica in the first 3 hours, and just spread like a wildfire ever since. And that's how everything started in this path in my life, which was only back in September, about 9 months ago.
So people were sharing it with their friends and
Everybody.
They were passing it around. And so your intent, you were thinking, okay, this is going to have a positive impact if I share this. Did it have the impact that you expected?
If you look at even the numbers of criticism versus positive feedback and positive results from people who read it, it's 99.9 to 0.1 on the positive side, which again, I took a leap of faith at the time because I was prepared for the worst. I was prepared for my family's putting me in a mental institution. They're going to think I'm crazy, but I got to do it because it's there. It's true. I've seen things with my own eyes. I've experienced certain things. So who am I to just sit down out of fear and not put out information that I do believe that can help the world? You know, to what level, I don't know. If it helps one person, that's enough. So long as it's helping somebody, so long as it's putting us in that positive direction, let's do it. But to my surprise, it was incredibly positive. And it started this unfolding process that's still going on today.
So that was last September. That's when you're talking about 8 months ago. Or I guess that's 9 months ago now.
9 months ago.
Okay. Wow. And since then you've become sort of a public figure, you know, you have, when I checked, you have almost 50,000 YouTube subscribers and, you know, interacting with a lot of people. You're hosting interviews, you're putting out your own content, and all this stuff. So I'd love to just get a sort of a picture of your current, you know, obviously, you know, you're doing these interviews. What's your current sort of daily structure like? And are you still doing some of the stuff that you used to do in the business and real estate world?
So yes and no, in terms of what I used to do. I don't make a dollar off of what I used to do anymore. It was a family business. So I told them, I'm with you always if you need help, but I don't want to be compensated for my work over there because I'm not doing much at all. Most of my work has to do with now, I mean, day to day, a lot of interviews, a lot of talking to people all around the world, a lot of content being produced. Right now, I just got back from New York City. I live in New York. I just got back from New York City, and I was doing a walkthrough in Union Square Park because on June 20th, I'm putting together a unity rally where we're bringing together people of all nationalities. Everybody's bringing their flags. I got a few people, a few DJs to come and play some awesome music. And we're just going to have like a little party to celebrate our differences while still all being one and human beings. So that's like one of the things I'm doing. And it's all different. You know, there's no real structure of hours, which is another thing. It's like, it's new to me. You know, I've never done something like this before. I don't have somebody to look at to follow their footsteps because I don't know somebody that's done exactly what I'm doing before. So I'm just kind of figuring it out on the way, you know, and there's different projects, initiatives on Friday in just a few days, or Thursday, I'm flying out to Maine to go meet this producer to help me film a documentary for an initiative we're starting called One Soul at a Time, where we're going to be taking homeless people off the street in New York City and making them not homeless anymore by giving them the means to not just give them something, but teach them how to become a part of society again, helping them find a job, helping them find a place to live. So it's all these different things that I'm passionate about that really surface differently all the time.
Yeah.
And we just make them happen, you know?
Yeah. That sounds uh, like a lot of fun on one hand, and also, just great.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it about you? I want to go back to when this guy first approached you. What was it that sort of put you on his radar? Like, do you have something special about you that they wanted you to be part of their organization, or how did it all start?
So if you ask them, they'll tell you that I was born with something specific, energetically speaking. I have something to do with an energy or a resonance. I don't completely understand what that means yet. Maybe one day I will. But when I ask those questions, because that's always my question, why me? You know, I'm a young guy. I come from a real estate background. You can get people that are probably much more powerful already in terms of their reach and what they do to spread a message much more effectively around the world. Why are you coming to me? And number one, first of all, I don't know all those answers, but the answers that I have been given so far was you were born with something, which you'll come to understand when that time is right. You have a resonance to you. In other words, you have a resonance that you were born with, that whatever that means, I don't know, but I guess maybe we'll see one day. And they always said, when you read Rays of Light, you will understand. Rays of Light is a book, more so a documentation or a consolidation of documentations and writings written in between 2010 and 2014 before I knew anything about what was going on. And I'm now reading Rays of Light, by the way. They haven't given me the whole book. The whole book is 864 pages. I've received 250 pages of 864 pages. And I'm coming to understand a lot clearer why, in terms of why I'm even in this picture in the first place. But in short, it's something that, to my understanding, I was born with that I don't completely understand yet, but will most probably, according to my freedom of choice and my actions, develop over time if I choose for that to be the case. So again, it's untreaded waters, uncultivated fields completely. I don't know what any of that means. And it's exciting and scary at the same time.
Yeah. And I think it might be possible to have your ego get wrapped up in it and thinking like, boy, I've tapped to be part of this special secret organization. When I was in Boy Scouts, and we got elected to be in the Order of the Arrow, which is sort of a service organization, but it's also a little secretive, and they have an initiation process and things like that. It felt really cool to be part of. So how do you keep your ego out of it?
I do my prayers every day. I do my grounding every day. Again, remember, I'm a human just like everybody else. There are always things that come up and get in the way that I do my best to always learn from. Nobody's perfect, even though everybody's perfect, but you know what I mean. And it's 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 something that I'm dealing with in terms of, I personally don't like to be praised. I find it to be very weird on a personal level.
Hmm.
I don't know how to deal with something like that because over the past few months, I've had both individuals calling me crazy, but more so individuals talking to me like I know everything. And I don't, I don't. And that's the most, I would say, interesting obstacle to deal with. Of I'm always on the same level as everybody else, but I do my best to make sure when everybody thinks otherwise, where they look up to me, I do my best to just like we're here, together.
Hmm.
And it's just interesting. I can't tell you that I figured it out because I haven't. I'm navigating this whole thing. I'm figuring out how to respond, how to react. It's like this evolution process where I don't know what comes next, and I've never dealt with this before in my life. So I'm accepting it as it goes. But in regards to the ego thing, I probably do too much of the opposite of like lowering because I don't like like, again, I know who I am just growing up. People that know me today see me in a different light because they didn't know me a year ago or 2 years ago before everybody started listening and all that. So it's like, and I'm sure many people go through this in their own way. So yeah, it's interesting. But in regards to the ego thing, I always do my best to remind myself, just stay calm and relax and you're good.
Yeah, I feel like we're seeing you in the middle of sort of becoming the next version of you. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
cool snapshot as we record this.
Yeah.
I'm curious because you said you got all those books on your shelf. You enjoyed learning about metaphysics and spirituality, but then this guy started telling you more information. You got information from TLS that was sort of eye opening. What was some of the stuff that really blew your mind that you weren't expecting?
There's extraterrestrial life living here in New York City. I say here in New York City because I'm right near New York City, but I mean, they work with extraterrestrial life on a physical level. They use their crafts for certain operations. I would say probably the most mind-blowing things I'm not at liberty to speak about, but big picture, it would be, I feel very connected to the whole extraterrestrial aspect of things, probably because I've always been in resonance with like unity. I've never understood how people see all these differences and hate each other for it. And it just
Mm.
doesn't make sense to me. So there was a lot of validation and confirmation for me when it came to them and information and experiences with them and certain things that I was put through on every level. But I find the extraterrestrial aspect of things, specifically to do with their level of awareness, is the most liberating aspect to all of this because it shows that we could do it too. We could reach this level of unity on an intergalactic level. We just have to become aware and change our resonance energetically in order to do that. So there were many things, but overall, just the big picture of, growing up, I never believed that we were being told everything. And being put through certain things and experiencing certain things and learning certain things from TLS and Ray specifically, it gave me a lot more confidence and power within my heart to
Mm.
continue moving forward, even with certain individuals calling me crazy. But with all that, it's like, and this one I'm sure many people can resonate with, the more you know, the more you kind of like, for me at least, the more I learn, the more so-called difficult it is to just be normal with everybody else because you see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversations I would have had 2 years or 3 years, no, for even 4 years ago, 5 years ago with my friends and going out and all this, it's different now because of certain things that I've experienced and certain things that I know. And I'm very grateful for it. There's also this side of like, wow, that how they say ignorance is bliss, but you can't go back.
Yeah.
So just kind of making the best of the situation as you learn and finding your tribe on the way would be also what I've been going through over the past few years. And it's an interesting journey.
Was there anything that you were told that you didn't really get until you had an experience to sort of confirm it for you?
I have to think about that one.
And what I'm getting at here is that people are often looking for seeing is believing, or there's some sort of proof of, I hear that people are talking about this, but I haven't experienced it. So I don't know if I can really trust just the chatter.
Yeah, I would say the idea of time being an illusion.
Okay.
It's definitely, today in our collective level of awareness, it's a concept we speak about, but experiencing time as an illusion or as a relative reality instead of a fundamental reality, or it's a completely different thing. And just to the level I experienced it at throughout that meeting of 12 hours, I didn't know 12 hours passed at all. 12 hours is a long time if we think about 12 hours. But there were certain things that were done in my experience of that meeting that it's almost like the perspective and the level of awareness and the resonance was changed. So the experience changed completely as well. And yeah, I would say the illusion of time through experience was a big one, because it was always something I spoke about,
Mm-hmm.
but experiencing it is different. It's different.
Would love for you to expand a little bit more if it's possible to explain the illusion of time. You can't.
I can explain it, yeah, but you'll never understand the experience until you experience it. It's just there's certain, how there are certain things that exceed the limitations of words. It's just,
Sure.
It's an experience, it's a knowingness, it's a feeling, but it can't necessarily be explained to its fullest extent. But I could talk about the illusion of time conceptually, and to make it super simple, because a lot of people make it very difficult and like this complex idea that blows your mind. And it is very simple on the conceptual level if we explain it the right way. So what is time? Time is the measurement. It's a tool that we created to measure how far and how long it takes for light to travel from point A to point B. That's what time is. So a light year is how far light travels in what we call 1 year. In the amount of time, and it's all relative, the amount of time it takes for Earth to go around the sun once. So we call that 365 days. We call that 1 year. So light travels at 186,000 miles per second. At that speed, if you were to travel at that speed for 1 year, you would have traveled the equivalent distance of what science calls 1 light year. Now that means that if I'm standing 1 light year away from you, which is 186,000 miles per second times the amount of seconds there are in 1 year relative to Earth time. If I'm standing that distance away from you and I turn on a light bulb, the light bulb is on, but you're only going to see it turn on 1 year later because it takes that much time for the light to reach you. So that means that time is relative to where you are, your perspective, your level of awareness, and where you are relative to something else. That's what Einstein spoke about with his theory of relativity, or theory of general relativity, showing that time is relative. With that being said, that light bulb that I'm talking about, we can also call the sun or stars. The sun, in terms of its distance, is 8 minutes away from us at the speed of light. That means if the sun exploded and shut off right now, we would still have 8 minutes of light here on Earth. The closest star to us, with the exception of the sun, is 4 light years away. That means that when we look at the stars at nighttime, we're looking at the past, and the closest we're looking at is 4 years away, because that's the time it takes for that reality, that light, because that's what reality is, to reach us. And what I find mind-blowing, but so simple, according to that very simple logic of light moving, is, every other day we hear scientists coming and saying, wow, we found a planet that looks like it has life on it 10,000 light years away.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're really looking at is the light of a reality 10,000 years ago, even though they're perceiving it in this present moment from Earth. The light that's reaching us is only reaching us now, but what's happening there, the planet may not even be there. We're just perceiving its light. So with that being said, if we were to stand or teleport hypothetically in this moment, right here, right now, to a star or a planet 3,000 light years away from Earth, and we took a telescope and looked at Earth, you wouldn't see Earth at the year 2020. You would see Earth in the year 3,000 years before 2020, probably seeing the pharaohs and the Egyptians and the pyramids being built sometime around then. Different timeline, but you know what I mean. So with that being said, conceptually, that's the best I can do to explain it. But with that being said, that reality of, let's say, the Exodus that long ago is happening right now somewhere else, according to somebody else's perspective of how long it took that light to reach them. And that's our illusion of time, because we're so in this third dimensional reality that we think that this is the only reality that exists. And the truth is no, this is just one of an infinite amount of perspectives that exist. What we experience right here, right now, is one perspective of an infinite spectrum of light. And based on how we move and where we move, we could go back in time, but we can't change it. And that's where I disagree with science, by the way. That was something I was taught as well. If you're standing on that planet 3,000 light years away from Earth, and you look at Earth and you see the Exodus, you can't change the events of the Exodus. You can only observe them. Because you can only observe that light. You can't interact with it. You can observe it. The future is now created also in the present moment by our freedom of choice, of how we choose to create something. There's an infinite amount of possibilities that can happen based on how we exercise and practice our freedom of choice in this present moment. But based on that, we will enter that reality accordingly, based on the resonance of our thought, of our words, and of our choice. So in that way, the past and the future, they're both right here. You can observe the past based on where you're standing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's so you can experience any moment in history. You just can't affect it by your location of observation. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's talk about ETs and UFOs, because this is a cultural hot topic right now.
Sure.
I haven't actually seen the Pentagon release anything yet, but they're supposed to. So
deadline is June 25th, I believe.
June 25th. Okay, because I thought it was happening at the beginning of June. Haven't seen it much news, but they're starting to, like, some of these, mainstream media is starting to show more sort of video footage and have experts on talking about it. So yeah, would love to hear your experience with ETs and UFOs. It seems like we're going to have more information about just like, here are some crafts, here are the actual UFOs and the objects and sort of the physics that they have, and maybe they're not going to talk so much about ETs, but we'd just love to hear your experience.
First of all, in regards to the disclosure, I don't think that the people behind it have our best interests in mind, for a very simple reason. Anytime we've seen technology out there, or individuals out there, human or not human, but let's stick to human for recorded history at least. Anytime we've seen technology that can help us, individuals who can help us and benefit humanity, unless that technology or those people could be monetized, it was always destroyed. So take Tesla and Edison. Edison took down Tesla for a very simple reason, because Tesla, they did not know how to monetize Tesla's technology, even though it was incredible and free energy. People in power that make money off of energy don't like free energy, because then they're no longer in power and they no longer have the capital to do what they do. So with that being said, with the crafts that we're seeing today, call them what you want, they are at a much higher level of technology than we have today here on Earth, according to our level of awareness of what we have here on Earth, at least in the first place. And with that being said, if those crafts were to come out mainstream and to be accepted mainstream as a great thing, well, the transportation industry, the oil industry, gasoline, electricity, all of it would go into the garbage. Right now, we're seeing a fight just between oil and electric. Imagine what happens if a technology came out right now that makes both of those obsolete. You know, it's like, it's incomprehensible, but that technology exists. That technology can travel intergalactically faster than the speed of light. They call it the power of thought, or the speed of thought, something that makes the speed of light look like a walk in the park. So right now, we're so physically oriented. People like Jeremy Corbell, people like Bob Lazar, who I love, by the way, and I think that they're great. But Bob Lazar talks about element 115. And they say if we stabilize element 115, that's the missing formula to making these crafts work. And he's absolutely wrong, because the way these crafts, well, he's partially wrong. The way these crafts work are not just physically speaking. It's not just physical technology. There's a spiritual technology behind it as well. So with all the physical technology that these crafts need to operate, they also need the consciousness of the operator that's transferred through the hand, that's connected to a dashboard in those crafts, at least the ones that I know of. So picture you walk into this craft, no matter how big or how small, and there are small ones and there are ones that are the size of New York City and multiple football fields put together. Wow. You know, they're massive ones. Now, the way that they work, to my knowledge at least, with the ones that I know of, I can't speak on everyone because we haven't seen everyone, right? I don't know about everyone. But the ones that I do know of, they have the equivalent of like a dashboard, like a glass panel. I don't know if it's glass, by the way. I'm just saying it's glass. It could be, it's something that's touchscreen. It could be made of crystal glass. I have no idea. The operator, and it's not one with seat belts and all that. That's not how these things work. That's how we think it works, because we're used to things like turbulence and the way that laws of physics works in our level of awareness, but that's not how they work. So the way that they work is they pretty much take their hand and put it, the operator would take their hand and put it on this panel of whatever it's made of. And wherever they touch on the panel, that part of the panel would light up with some sort of halo or light. Again, I don't know what that thing is made of, but that's how it would look if you were in there. It's not like a 747 cockpit where you have 1,000 different buttons and you have to learn and go to flight school and all that. You have the equivalent of flight school in this level of awareness is reaching a higher level of awareness to be able to operate these things in the first place. When the hand touches the panel and they do what they do through what we call the power of thought, the craft becomes an extension of the operator's consciousness. And the way that we see crafts going thousands of miles an hour and stopping on a dime, or making a right hand turn a 90-degree angle without the craft blowing up and without the individuals in the craft splattering against the wall, is because that craft is not bound by the laws of physics that we know today. Now, remember that the laws of physics that we know today are the laws of physics that we know today based on our current level of awareness. And as our current level of awareness expands, we understand the laws of physics differently. What was impossible one day becomes possible the next day based on our level of awareness. So those individuals operating these crafts are not just at a higher level of awareness, but they allow the craft and they cause the craft to transcend dimensions, not in terms of not being able to see it. You can see it, it's physical. In terms of what it's able to do. In other words, go 5,000 miles an hour and stop. Or literally bounce out to a point where you think it teleported and it's just going really, really fast, faster than the speed of light through the power of thought. So That's how these things would operate, to my knowledge, at least. But it has to do with physical technology. We will never operate or learn how to operate those crafts if we stick to the physical aspect of life, because the power of thought is the key to making those crafts an extension of the operator's consciousness, which is why we see it doing things that don't make sense, because their level of awareness supersedes and far exceeds ours here on Earth.
And so we're talking about like a physical craft that you can go in and see, like three-dimensional.
Yep.
I've also seen, on social media, just videos of light orbs and things like that. Would those also be considered crafts of some sort, or are they
Are they
ETs?
physical? Are they physical?
Like you could capture them on a camera, but I don't know if they're like a solid object or.
I'm speaking strictly about physical crafts. Those are the ones I know of.
Okay. And so who's flying these crafts? Like, do you know the different ETs that?
Well, number one, it's not always ETs. There could be human beings that fly them, but they're human beings that went through extensive training and can possess a very high level of awareness to be able to do that.
Okay, so anybody could theoretically fly one if they were trained?
Just like anybody could theoretically levitate, but how many people access that? Yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay, cool.
But it's based on the individual and their potential of what they're willing to access and what they're willing to do in order to access it.
Can you levitate?
No. I know individuals that can.
And was that something you, going back to experience, was that something that you, once you saw it, you were like, oh, I see it's possible?
I'm not at liberty to speak about exactly what I've seen and what I haven't. So you're going to have to bear with me on that one. That's one of my instructions.
Okay. All right. Okay. So it's not always ETs that are flying UFOs. Could be some trained humans.
Correct. There are generally ETs on the crafts with them.
Okay.
But yeah, it could be humans. For the most part, it's extraterrestrial life.
All right. And so I think it's great that we established, and because I'm on the same page, that a disclosure event could be framed as positive or negative, and that there's, potentially all these great benefits, technology, interacting with other races and cultures, like potentially lots to learn. But then you could also spin it as like, they're going to invade Earth and we have to defend ourselves. And
well, ask yourself a simple question. If they were going to invade, why haven't they? And have you ever asked yourself who put the invasion idea in your mind in the first place? Where'd you see that? Where'd you
Hollywood.
get that? Where?
Movies.
Who's creating those movies?
I've heard that many of them are funded by different aspects of the military.
Okay. And do you believe that there could be an agenda to make us want to believe a reality that's never happened here on Earth?
Sure.
And that's my answer. We've never seen an invasion. Yet you think about extraterrestrial, you think invasion. What a joke that is. It's crazy. They made us associate something with something else that's never happened.
At least in our history that we know of. Could have happened. Long time
For sure,
ago,
but based on the individuals that we see around the world with the perpetration of fear, you would think that if it happened in history, they would highlight it.
Yeah. So what?
So you said that was an invasion. That doesn't mean they haven't been here. They have. They've been here for a very long time. This isn't anything new. But I'm talking about an invasion coming here to rule us, enslave us, kill us, drink our blood, whatever the hell everybody else says. I don't buy it. Not only I don't buy it, I would say I know that to be false, but I don't want to speak that way because what does that really mean?
Yeah, well, I think it's good to, whatever the U.S. military releases in their documentation, it's good to sort of, even before that comes out, sort of set a marker and say, hey, you can compare what we're talking about today in this podcast with that evidence, and you can sort of see for yourself which one seems more accurate to you.
Sure. I would also say when dealing with things like this, not enough people use their heart anymore. Not enough people use their heart. And when you only, I'm not saying don't use the mind. I'm a big mind person. But if you only use the mind, you can be deceived many, many times. If you only, are you good?
Excuse me.
No worries.
All right, thank you.
So if you only use the mind, physical proof can come out and you can refuse to believe it, which happens always. You know, people always say we want evidence, we want proof. Well, what does that really mean? What does that mean? What do you mean evidence and proof? Okay, is a picture enough? Some say yes, some say no. Is a video enough? Some say yes, some say no. Is a physical experience enough? Some say yes and some say no, believe it or not, even if it happens to them. Because if you don't want to believe something, there will always be a way to say it's not true. And that's our freedom of choice of what do we want to do? How do we want to deal with it? And how willing are we to let our belief systems dissolve and rebuild? And it's difficult for many people, you know, to let go of their foundational aspects of what they think to be themselves. So I understand, I really do. That's why I never get upset with individuals who call me crazy or whatever it is, because if they didn't call me crazy, they would have to accept that their entire life may have been a lie. And that's not easy to do. It's easier to tell the person you're crazy than it is to accept that maybe what I thought was wrong. And that's a check that I do on myself every day, by the way. And there are sometimes where I change my mind. You know, there are sometimes where I say, you know, I was wrong. Let's move forward. Let's keep going. It's all good. We're humans.
Was there some beliefs that you had to dissolve for yourself?
Yeah, the reptilian agenda. I believe that to be real. I believed everything that everybody else in that community believes of. There's a different race here hurting us, enslaving us, and suppressing us. There is a race here hurting us, suppressing us, and controlling us, but they're not of a different race. They're called human beings, and they act through the reptilian part of their brain. It's called the hindbrain. That doesn't make them not human beings. It just makes them human beings acting out of a different level of awareness and a different level of consciousness. So that was difficult for me because I came from a community that believed that to be absolutely true. And then when it came to things like TLS, they said, no, that's not true. There are individuals doing those things and they do act out of certain portions of their brain, but the reptilian race is not the reptilian race as everybody explains them to be. It's not a race that comes here from a different planet, that comes here to drink your blood. You know, it's human beings that are acting out of a different level of awareness, both those doing the suppressing and controlling and those walking into the suppressing and controlling. It's all done out of fear, and fear exists in the hindbrain, the reptilian brain.
Okay. And all right, so let's talk about what, if any, ETs do you know about?
3 races, their names, like the names of their planets, are Tzia, Tzia, Nashia, Nashia, and Konom, Konom. Tzia and Nashia are, by the way, already written in Psalms written by King David, and the Zohar, which both of those were written over 2,000 years ago. Already documented, already written about, only because of the individuals who translated that and interpreted that, they think that Nashia just means desert. I'm sorry, they think that Tzia just means desert in Hebrew. And it actually is talking about the place that's like a desert, which is a different planet, not in the Milky Way galaxy, the individuals from Tzia. So they don't have much water there. They get their water from elsewhere in the universe, one of the places being Earth, planet Earth. And so there's a lot of misinterpretation, mistranslation having to do with even those texts from over 2,000 years ago. But all of these races are in cooperation with TLS. They work with TLS. TLS helps them with certain things that they need done. And ultimately, it's all for coming together in intergalactic unity. That's what's going on here. That's the world that we're going to live in one day when we're ready to reach that reality.
And do they look like humans?
Sia looks like humans, Norwegian looking, Scandinavian looking, much taller, anywhere between 7 to 9 feet. Blonde hair, green eyes, and white, but like with a tan. So it's always sunny over there. It's very warm. It's very hot. It's about 140 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit on their planet. They have a water shortage, which is why they have to go to other places to get it. But yeah, they look like human beings, only tall, really good looking, fit, muscular, good looking individuals. Really Scandinavian looking models, put it that way. With nice long hair, both sides, both genders, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Nashia, also human looking, a little less. They don't have noses and ears. They have more so holes on their faces and on their heads,
Okay.
as their noses and their ears, but they look like Mayan people. They're short, they're like stubby and like big and wide, strong, hairy, but they look like if you were to think of like a Mayan person or a Mexican person that's on the shorter side and thicker, that's what they look like. And their planet is very green, very rich in water. They don't have oceans or lakes, by the way. All their rain goes straight into the ground. So their ground is it's filled with a lot of water, and it's very, very green, but no formal like oceans, lakes, or things like that, or rivers. On Nashia, by the way, they only have fruits. On Sia, they only have vegetables. And on Konum, they only have herbs. And their herbs act as their like superfood of both liquid and nutritional value of food. On Konum, they look nothing like human beings. They do have the whole two legs, 2 arms, and a body, but they kind of resemble like dolphins in terms of how they look. Their neck is about 2 inches or maybe an inch in from their head, and their head kind of comes out like a dolphin. Eyes not on the side and not in front, more so like right here, kind of pointing out like a lizard a little bit, but not completely on the side. And they have like dolphin skin. So it's like gray, shiny, damp. They don't defecate or urinate. All of their excretion goes through their skin. So their skin is always moist, and they don't smell. So all these beings eat very clean. Just by nature and what's on their planet, they are vegans because they have nothing else to eat, by the way. There are no animals over there. So on Konum, it's just herbs. On Nashia, it's just fruits. On Sia, it's just vegetables. And they all possess a very high level of awareness. But with that being said, you're not going to see buildings like you see in New York City or Hong Kong. It doesn't happen like that. They're very grounded. They're connected to earth. On Sia, they walk barefoot. So people look and they're like, if they have crafts that can travel intergalactically, why would they walk barefoot? Like they're not advanced, and people don't seem to understand that is advanced, spiritually speaking. They think that wearing shoes made of plastic and chemicals is advanced, and it's not. It actually does the opposite of evolution in every sense of the word. It devolves us because we're staying away from nature instead of living in harmony with it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that would be.
Have you personally worked with beings from each of these places?
I'm not able to speak about what I've seen or what I've done when it comes to things like that or any of that technology. That's just something that I was told that I have to follow.
Okay, so you can't say whether you've been to these planets or not either.
Oh no, I haven't been to the planets. I can't say what I've seen, but I have not been to the planets.
Okay.
Ray has been to the planets, and others who I know have been to the planets as well.
I've heard from a couple other places that eventually, and this is something that excites me, there may be something like an exchange program. If we have open contact,
that already exists.
It exists?
Yeah.
But only for TLS people, or?
I don't know. I know TLS has the equivalent of what you would call like an exchange program, where right now in New York City, there's a being from Konum living there, living in the city,
Hmm.
and there are humans that went there and they experience alternatively. More so for the purposes of there's research, understanding these different places, learning about these different places, and eventually uniting with these places. But it has to be done slow to not create chaos.
Okay. So I've heard Earth is unique. Earth is important. There's a lot of diversity here. There's a lot of, if ETs are coming here to learn things, um, there's something special about Earth itself, the civilization here. Maybe you could talk a little bit about like why is Earth important or special?
Well, okay, Earth on the physical level holds the physical geographical location that is believed to be where, and it's an oxymoron, where creation started as we know it. I say it's an oxymoron more so in regards to my awareness because creation never started. That's not how it works. Energy can't be created or destroyed. But in terms of our experience of physicality, that's where it physically emerged from on Earth. The actual geographical location of that, not just energetic center of Earth, but also of the universe, meaning where everything emerged from, is known as what is today to be the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, which is what everybody's fighting over, that part that everybody's fighting over.
Huh.
Today it belongs to the Muslims. It used to belong to the Jews. And before that, it didn't belong to anybody because all those religions were something that was created at a certain point. So that geographical location in of itself existed before religion. Religious leaders were attracted to it because of its spiritual significance that they understood at the time. So Earth holds the physical, energetic, the physical center of the universe. When I say physical, I'm not talking about if you were to measure it. I'm talking about almost like physical and energetic center, meaning like the heart chakra is the center of the 7 chakras, but it's not in the physical center of the human body if you were to measure your height.
Okay.
It is the center, energetic center. So that's how you can allocate that understanding to the idea of the energetic and physical center of Earth being the center of the universe as well. With that being said, the what they would call like the godly or divine light that exists on Earth is very high, more so than other planets, even though those other planets have reached incredible heights. And what's weird is that with us having that incredible godly light and divine light, we have the most problems. There was a point where we didn't have all of this chaos here on Earth, which again doesn't change the fact that it was where everything started. Humanity evolved in the way that it evolved, and it corrupted itself in the way that it corrupted itself due to our freedom of choice. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a human experience that we're going through. So with that being said, Earth is a very significant place specifically because of that in and of itself. On top of that, we're the only planet with the diversity that we see. If you go to any other planet, unless they have, actual visitors from other places, they all look the same. Think about it like Asia. You go to Asia, everybody, or you go to China, everybody's Chinese. With the exception of the diversity. You go to Africa, with the exception of other places, everybody's Black. Think about it like that in other planets where the whole planet is one race. We are the only planet that has diversity to this extent, to this level, and it's because we're a mix of different races. We're a result of the interbreeding between different races. We're the offspring of that. Matter of fact, in Hebrew, the biblical word for earth is tevel. Tevel means a mixture. So there was an understanding of this already thousands of years ago.
So we're talking about human diversity. Are we also talking about botanical, other species of, across the kingdoms of life diversity as well?
Well, again, if you were to ask what I've been taught, I haven't been to these planets, but what I've been taught, animals don't exist anywhere else. We're the only planet with animals, but I'm specifically talking about not just the diversity of life as a whole, the diversity of life as we call humanity.
And so differentiating between an animal versus so obviously there's living organisms that you're talking about on these other planets, but they're not animals because their level of awareness is higher, or what differentiates?
No, I'm talking specifically about like a deer, a monkey, an elephant, a lion, things of that nature are
Mhm.
not. My question is always, what's the ecosystem like? But I've never been there. So it's a question that I still have to learn more about.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Wow. Where would you like to take this? Is there stuff that I haven't asked you that you think is important to touch on?
Everything's important. Yeah, one thing I would say is when it comes to humanity, people like making a distinction between terrestrials, humans, and extraterrestrials. And what does that really mean? What do you mean humans? We are the offspring. You see it in our diversity. You see it in hieroglyphics from Egypt. You see it. We are the offspring of individuals who did not come from here. So are we human? And if we are, what does that mean? In my eyes, human just means what we've become acquainted to and what we've become used to that somewhat looks like us. So if you have two eyes, a nose, a mouth, ears, a heart, legs, arms, fingers, all that, if you have that, but you're black, white, Asian, whatever it is, we just call it human because we're used to it. But let's say you've never seen an Asian person before. And I said, hey, Derek, there's this race that you've never seen before. For the most part, they're somewhat short, pale, white skin. Their eyes are more stretched out than what we're used to. Their noses, for the most part, are a little flatter than the common man. And they have this black hair that's really straight and like doesn't frizz. I don't know. That's an alien to you until you've met one and become used to it. Let's say you've never seen a black person before. And I said, Derek, there's this race out there that's pretty tall for the most part. A lot of them are tall. There are short ones every so often, but they're tall. They have bigger lips, bigger noses, smaller ears, really, really dark skin. And for the most part, brown eyes. You see every so often blue eyes, green eyes, but for the most part, brown eyes. That's an alien to you until you've become acquainted to it. And then you say, oh no, that's just an African American. That's a black person. Oh no, that's an Asian person. Oh no, that's a Caucasian. Oh no, it's like, so what is an alien and what's a human really? Other than, because we all come from everywhere. If you even look at what we're made of, chemically speaking, what makes us up exists on different planets and different stars that are not just part of Earth. So with that being said, I call an alien just something foreign to our awareness, not necessarily extraterrestrial, just foreign to our level of awareness that we didn't have a chance necessarily to become acquainted with.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. It's something that just occurred to me to ask you because you talked about you were surprised that there wasn't reptilians, but there are still sort of the bad or sort of negative agendas, and it sounds like TLS is trying to just close out those negative agendas. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about this sort of, I don't know if we can call it a battle between good and evil or a process of raising our awareness. Maybe you could just
Sure.
speak to that.
I'll focus on the last thing you just said of the raising our awareness part. When it comes to TLS, a lot of people say if they're so powerful, if they have such incredible technology and such incredible people working for them, then why do we still have evil in the world today? So first and foremost, I want to say TLS is not responsible for humanity. Humanity is responsible for humanity. TLS can guide and assist along the way, but we have our freedom of choice to make this world what we want this world to be, based on what we choose to create in this world and allow to exist in this world in the first place. With that being said, I'm sure that TLS can wipe out every evil individual and organization right now. As a matter of fact, I know that they can induce a heart attack on somebody without even touching them energetically. That can be done. The question is, why aren't they doing that? Well, don't get me wrong. On the way, they do things like go into the bases of these organizations where they keep their resources, and they take those resources and they destroy their resources to deprive them of what gives them their power in the first place.
Okay.
But if you were just to go around killing individuals that were evil, so-called, it wouldn't do much because those individuals would be replaced. So TLS understands that and therefore acts through that level of awareness. In other words, if you were just to focus on taking down evil without focusing on what allowed that evil to exist in the first place, then it's the equivalent of doing surgery to remove a tumor when you have cancer, instead of understanding what caused the cancer in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
What caused the cancer in the world in the first place, energetically speaking, and in the world that we see today on the collective level, is not the few who control the many. It's we, the people, who allow the few to exist in the first place, who elect that few into power, who allowed that to be a creation of our collective consciousness in the first place. And in that way, just taking down the few will do close to nothing, may do something temporarily, but those few will be replaced. What has to be done is the collective raising, the raising of the collective level of awareness, the educating of the masses. So we, the people, can produce a different outcome next time. And when you change the root of the problem, AKA the awareness of the masses, that evil will dissolve naturally, because that evil is only a reflection of the collective. You change the collective, you change its reflection. That's what TLS focuses on the most. That being said, they do have operations where they do incredible things on the way. And on the way, they do deprive certain individuals and organizations of their resources that give them their power in the first place. However, with that being said, that's only a part of the picture. If that were the only thing that was done without changing and improving and elevating the collective level of awareness of the masses, then they'd be doing nothing here. So their focus is on the masses, and on the way, the few.
So before you came along and started speaking publicly, I'm thinking like, okay, that sounds like just a big marketing campaign. Like we have to change people's awareness, so we just have to get it into their awareness. So is there sort of a public facing marketing campaign to sort of change people's awareness that existed before you came along?
Oh, no. Before he came along, TLS was never spoken about publicly. But again, TLS doesn't matter. What they do matters. I can guarantee you that you've watched movies made by them and you just don't know it. And it's had an impact on your level of awareness subconsciously. I can guarantee you that you've read a book that was influenced by them, whether the author knew it or not. I can guarantee you that you've watched a TV show that was made by one of their producers, purposely with subliminal messages without you even understanding what you were watching. That's how you plant messages on the way. And you change things without people really understanding who's behind that assistance of evolution in the first place. So that's how they've been doing it.
So theoretically, both sides could be using movies and books, and
Absolutely.
so subliminal messages from the quote good guys and the
You see how they did it in Hollywood already on the other side, with associating extraterrestrial life with invasions and killing.
right.
It never happened.
What's an example of a book or a movie that might be?
I can't share that.
Can't share that.
No.
All right.
Not publicly.
Not publicly. I want to. Can you share something here that you've never shared anywhere before, but you're still allowed to?
I don't know. No, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. There's nothing in my mind. I don't know. I always do, but not because I'm withholding something, because it just never came up.
Just a lot. Just a lot of information.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah. Just trying to get a scoop, trying
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
a special here. um, okay. This is fantastic stuff. Can you talk about, and we're going to wrap shortly, but have you cultivated any special abilities or superhuman since you've started learning all this stuff? You already said you couldn't levitate, but are there other things you can do now?
Not, I wouldn't call it superhuman at all because it's very human. It's just we live in a, like right now, we call so many things supernatural that are natural. We're just living suppressed natural lives. So anything that's natural, we call supernatural, and it's not. Things like levitation, by the way, is not supernatural. Things like remembering past lives is not supernatural. If I were to ask you what you ate for breakfast this morning and you answered me, would you think that you're this Superman with powers because you told me what you ate for breakfast this morning?
Of course not.
Okay. Well, that it's the same thing of you remembering something 2000 years ago in a different life. It just at a different level of awareness. So it's not supernatural, these things. Everything that they call superhuman, supernatural, it's totally normal, just not normal to the norm today. With that being said, I wouldn't say something like specifically, more so just like being more in tune with knowing what somebody's thinking without them telling me. But many people have that, you know, being able to remember certain things in the past, whether through dreams or waking life, generally through dreams for me, I've had. Um, and really just like, I'm a big person when it comes to conscious manifestation. I
Hmm.
manifest very quickly. People don't understand how it happens. I don't call it supernatural. I think I just call it guided manifestation. If you do it consciously, again, it's almost like if you held a gun and you practice shooting and you hit the bullseye, you're not Superman. You've just practiced shooting a gun and you've hit the bullseye. In that same way, that's how manifestation works. If you manifest something that people, a lot of the time, when you hit the bullseye through manifestation, people are like, oh my God, how do you do that? And it's just because you practice shooting the gun enough, you're going to hit the bullseye every time. You know,
What's something you've manifested really quickly?
everything, everything you've ever seen me do, everything that I've ever done from the pyramid code. And with that being said, by the way, it's not me doing it. That's another thing that's a key to manifestation, to know that it's bigger than you, to know that you're being helped, to know that there's something flowing through you. You're just the conduit to make it happen. So when I say I'm talking about me just being the tool that allowed it to, that allowed that energy to flow me in the first place. But the actual thing is not me as Jason. It's something much bigger going on here. That awareness in of itself allows manifestation to happen a whole lot quicker because you're giving credit and acknowledgement to the fact that there's something much bigger than this physical limited body that we're in right here. So, I mean, everything, anywhere from the pyramid code to being on Gaia to people that I've interviewed, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., David Icke, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Del Bigtree. I mean, all these people that are big individuals in the world, you know, just boom, boom, boom. And it's like, of course it's going to happen. So it happens. The Academy of Divine Knowledge that I built, that platform, with all that you see, it was built in 60 days. You know, that's, if you ask somebody, they'll tell you that's impossible. It's not possible. It is impossible according to any person that builds a platform like that. And I said, well, I don't believe you. It is. And we're going to hit the bullseye. And we did. So that's conscious manifestation. I've done workshops on the Academy that I've put out all about manifestation with tools and formulas and certain things that you can follow to make it that much more efficient to do it consciously, because we're always manifesting. The question is, what are we manifesting and are we doing it consciously? I just teach how to do it consciously.
Great. I think this is probably a good time to, plug whatever you want or direct people towards where they can find your work
Sure.
online.
You can find me on my personal website at jasonshurka.com. Every so often I do sessions, but things are just really busy. So I try to fit that in. The pyramid code is there for free. It's now translated into 9 different languages, and there's 2 audio versions because volunteers from all around the world have decided to do that and put that together.
Wow.
In addition to that, the main place you can find me and many others, by the way, is the Academy of Divine Knowledge. The website is academyofdk.com, like divine knowledge, academyofdk.com, where I put out interviews and discussions with many different individuals covering many different topics, anywhere from current events to spiritual insights and everything in between. And with that being said, there is a monthly fee for that one. I more so call it a contribution because those contributions, whether monthly, 6-month, or annually, go towards bigger projects like One Soul at a Time, where we're going to be taking homeless people off the street and giving them a place to live and helping them have their own place to live and helping them find a job. And by the way, we're going to be turning that into a documentary as well. So all of these things are funded by the Academy. The Unity Rally on June 20th is funded by the Academy. It's all funding these bigger initiatives that are here to serve us, that are here to help us, that are here to unite us as one, as we always were. We just forgot. So that was the Academy, my website. And if you just type in Jason Shurka on Google, you'll find me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And I think that's everything that I'm on, and Telegram.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Jason, thanks so much for coming on. Fantastic discussion, and shared a lot of stuff. I know you're going to open a lot of people's eyes, and yeah, it was fun to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.